Hello, and welcome back to the Our Moment podcast. I hope you don't mind so much that we took a little break last week, but it was my fall break from the school and my reporting booth was kind of shut down. But also, I felt like our October episode was a nice time to kind of give us a break, as well as the fact that we just ended part 1, and so I was like, we kind of need some time to reflect and just think about what just happened. But hello, welcome back. Once again, my name is Exquisite, and this is the Our Moment podcast where we'll be talking about Legendborn, and we are getting into part 2, Discord. Now, this is your all brand spoiler warning because I find it just a little bit harder to absolutely avoid spoilers in this, simply because we've already went past part 1. In the last episode that pertained to Legendborn, I literally spoiled the heck out of uh the entirety of part 1. So now we're in part 2, and the structure of the way I'm going to explain part 2 is going to be just a little bit different. So today I'm going to spend all our time on vocabulary and some things that are important to know. Next are I keep saying I'm so sorry. Maybe that 1 week off I got some first week back rust, as seen in football. um but next week we're going to talk about some of the new characters that we're introduced to, as well as we get into the lore and the world building. And then in the week after that, we are going to talk about what exactly goes down in part 2. So that's what we're going to do. And it's going to be a fun time. But today, I feel like it is finally time to get into all these words that we read in part 2. And I already explained some of the terminology, but we're really going to get into just all the magical terminology now. So we're going to start with the beginning. So one of the very first words we learn is the order. Now, the order, I've already said this, but I'm just going to go from the jump, actually. The order is short for the Order of the Round Table, which comes from the Legend of Arthur. So if you aren't familiar, that's your Lancelot, your Excalibur, Merlin, Camelot, Morgana, and all that stuff. So, maybe you want to start going in, reading into some Arthurian myths. I think they go great with this book, but also you don't really have to, because I think Tracy Dion does a really good job of kind of giving us a baseline of where to start when we're thinking about the order and what's going on. So you don't really need that. But the order that was established at UNC Chapel Hill has one mission, and that mission is to kill the Shadowborn. The next vocabulary word we have is the sight. Now, the sight is what allows the order to see Shadowborn. Regular people can't really see, hear, or touch or interact with the Shadowborn unless they've gone full corporeal. And so, unless they're full corporeal, people like you and me, unless you're a Legendborn out here listening to me, don't really have to worry about Shadowborn at all, because the Order's whole goal is to get rid of them, and they can see them. And then you have Legendborn. So Legendborn is the highest ranking member of the Order of the Round Table. They're either scions or squires, which we'll get into those words later. And they're the only people in the order that are allowed to recruit new members for the cause. The Legendborn in the order exists once again to kill Shadowborn that seek to hurt people. Then you have your once-borns. Once-borns are regular humans that do not have the sight. They just kind of go about their everyday lives, not realizing that there's two whole worlds going on. Then we have Shadowborn, and I keep saying this over and over again. Shadowborns are our demons. There are a bunch of different subspecies of Shadowborn, and a bunch of different Welsh words that I can't really pronounce, and I advise you to get the audiobook if you want to know how to pronounce them properly, unless you can speak Welsh, which if you can speak Welsh, hi, welcome to my podcast. They can't become corporeal easily, but the more ether they consume, the more corporeal and powerful they become. They access the human world through gates, which is the door between their realm and our dimension, and they feed off of chaos. Yeah, they feed off the chaos. It's kind of crazy. Then we have ether. Ether is what the Legendborn call magic. But and as far as the Legendborn are concerned, for those who know, it's the only magic they have out here. But there's also rootcraft. Rootcraft is what we find out about this in part two of this book in Discord. But rootcraft is a balanced form of magic. So it involves borrowing power from one's ancestors through offerings to those ancestors. And while it's nowhere near as like violently powerful magic that the Legendborn uses, like ether, but it doesn't like it doesn't redacted because I'm not going to say what it doesn't do yet until I actually go into the next episode and talk about some of the lore and world building that we get. But I wouldn't say it's less dangerous. All magic comes with a price. Haha! Shout out to Once Upon a Time on ABC. You can watch that on Disney Plus. Not a sponsor. Root crafters pay their price with offerings. They don't take the magic; they borrow it. Okay, so then we also have blood crafters. Blood crafters are considered most powerful form of root crafters, and blood crafting is a magic that takes ether, root, whatever, from the world and it ties it to yourself and your bloodline without a payment of equal weight. And because magic requires payment, it comes back to bite them basically. Um, and there's an example of bloodcraft in this book that I'll get into next episode once again when we get into the lore and world building that Dion has done. Okay, so now we have another word we have that will come up often is Kamlin. Kamlin is like this massive reckoning, and it's when the Shadowborn grow so powerful and so restless, the Legendborn knights are awakened and they have to fight the demons when Arthur is awakened. And as far as we know, the last Kamlin that they know of took place was during the Revolutionary War in America. Okay, so here are the big ones. So the next word we're going to get into is scions. So there are a bunch of living descendants of the Knights of the Round Table, but only the heir to the knight's line between the ages of 16 and 22 can be a scion. So when the scion dies, like say they die young for whatever reason, the power of their knight is passed on to the next heir, i.e., their child or their child sibling or their sibling if there's no one there. Think the British line of succession, right? And the scion has all the powers of their knight that they were called on by. And I'll go into the knight's powers that we know of just from this book just a little bit later in this episode. So that's what a scion is. Now, a squire is assigned to a scion. Every scion has a squire, and a squire is essentially the scion's partner in battle and their protector. Scions and squires are bonded by a warrior's oath, which allows them to know if the other is in danger and feel each other's emotions. They can only be bonded after a scion is called. And once they're called, then the warrior oath will be administered by a Merlin, i.e., Selwyn in our book. So you also have pages. Pages are young teenagers that compete in trials for squire position. Each page must have a Legendborn sponsor, as they are the only ones allowed to recruit new members. Through these trials, pages are eliminated to narrow down the choice at the selection gala, which is when the scions like pick who they want. Um, yeah, and then sometimes the page will make it known what scion they're hoping that they're hoping to get at the beginning of the competition. Other times they don't. And if a page fails the trial, they can still be allowed to be like a part of it. They're just like aren't higher up. They may become a vassal or they'll come from a vassal family. And pages are typically children of vassals. Speaking of vassals, a vassal is someone outside of the order that knows of it, but like not the entire extent. They don't actually have the sight, so they can't see ether or the Shadowborn, but they are sworn to the code of secrecy and they pledge to the order. They typically serve a certain line, as in a line of knights, and their children can be sponsored by a member of the line they serve. And then vassals can be police officers, politicians, doctors, deans, CEOs, all like. A lot of the times, being a vassal and affiliated with the order gives you a lot of money and power. Vassals usually have an extended network that allows the order to keep tab of Shadowborn and other weird, non-worldly like anomalies. They also help to ensure that once-borns don't become aware of the Shadowborn world and go into a panic. Vassals are very often wealthy, powerful, prestigious, white old money families that have served the order for centuries. And majority of the vassals become pages and then squires, and then they can get kind of lifted up to the loft of um Legendborn, like if they get oath to their squire. Okay, so then once again we have our Merlins. Merlins are, it's not a title and it's not a person. Merlin was a person back in like Arthurian times. But the Merlins are the sorcerers. We already talked about this when I was talking about Selwyn, but Merlins are sorcerers that serve as mages for the Order. They have a powerful affinity for ether. They can mesmer people, which is like mind control, memory, think you did not see the Jedi coming, think that. And they can create constructs like physical objects and animals. They're also way stronger, faster, and more agile and have way better senses than typical people and scions who like haven't been awakened yet. All Merlins have these weird golden eyes, and there's something else about them, but I'm not going to go into yet because we don't actually find that out till part 3. Hello, part 3. Um, yeah, so there's actually a lot more going on with the Merlins that I'm just not going to say. We also have our King's Mages. So, a King's Mage is only the most powerful Merlin child in a generation, and they have to take the King's Mage oath, and they're taken from their family and bound to the scion of Arthur. So, Arthur's lineage, King Arthur Pendragon. And they are the scion's sworn protector. They literally cannot hurt them, they can't do any of that, right? And then we have Morganes. Morgane is a title as well. It's not a person. It The line of Morgane is like a line of rogue Merlins who were like, we don't like the way things are running in the order. And honestly, who can blame them? And I say that because we're gonna find out more about that in the coming episodes. But who can blame them? Um yeah, so it's like, okay, the line of Morgaine typically works with the Shadowborn. And we don't know much about them, but we do know that they are powerful Merlins. They're not as powerful as the Merlins because they stopped their training and they don't have access to like all the ancient texts that the Merlins use. Okay, and then our last word, I know it's been a lot of words, are lieges. So, lieges are the former scions and squires that have like aged out. They're not 1622 anymore. And do this, they are really good in battle. They have a lot of experiences, but they don't have access to the powers of the awakened knight. Um, some of them may have been, some of them may have already been like given their power, while others may not have. So it's really just like it's just a thing on how close Kamlin was. LOL. But, okay, so the last thing we're going to get into this episode is kind of the lines of the knights that we know exist in. Well, all 12 of them, 13 of them have like their lines, but only a couple of them are relevant to this book. So we have our 12th ranked, and ranked means just the order and the hierarchy that they go. So Arthur is number 1, and then we have like rankings from 1 to 13. And when a scion is called, they're called in the from lowest order to high order, right? So 12th rank is Sir Gawain. His sigil, what is his symbol, is a two-headed eagle. His colored is emerald green, and the inheritance that the Legendborn Scion gets is the enhanced healer abilities, preternatural strength at midday and midnight, and they use the dual dagger as their weapon. Our 11th ranked knight is Sir Bors, and they have the 3-banded circle as their sigil. Their color is burnt orange, and the inheritance is agility and dexterity, and their weapon is the longsword. 7th ranked knight is Sir Owain. They have the sigil of the lion couchant. Their color is a tawny yellow. Their inheritance is an ether lion familiar. So they have a literal familiar. Like, are you kidding? And their weapon is a quarterstaff. Our fourth ranked is Sir Lamorak. His sigil is a griffin corant. His color is a carmine red. He gets preternatural strength all the time, not just at midday and midnight. Midday and midnight, like Sir Gawain. Speaking of Sir Gawain, hello, Dev Patel. If you're listening to this podcast, which I know you are, I loved you in The Green Knight. Hello? Come on the podcast. I feel like you should read this book. Anyway, and Sir Lamorak also fights with the axe. Then, in our third ranked, we have Sir Tristan. Their sigil is the 3-arrow sinister. Their color is azure blue. The inheritance is marksmanship and speed. They're super fast. And their weapon is obviously go marksmanship, a bow and arrow. And then our first ranked, the very top of the line, is Sir Arthur Pendragon. His sigil is the dragon rampant. His color is gold. The inheritance, you get the king's wisdom and strength. And the weapon is the long sword. So, what does that mean for us? Well, that kind of means that the Legendborn in the title are these people who have these inheritance from these knights. And they are required to hunt these students down. And those are kind of like all the words that you need to know as we go forward. So if you hear me say any words, like when I'm talking the next episode about like our world building and all the things like that and the new characters we meet, come back to this episode if you have no idea what I mean when I say like a squire are assigned, because when I tell you these words come up often, they come up often. But yes, okay. Thank you for listening to this episode. Welcome back. We are back to our normal schedule. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what do you think. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a comment and a review if you're listening anywhere else. Majority of you listen to me. I say us. I've been using the royal we a lot on our Twitter page that you should follow at Our Moment Pod. You can also follow me on YouTube at Exquisite Williams, on Instagram at Exquisite Williams, and you can follow me on Twitter at Exquisite WILL. I'm very excited as we dive very much deeper into part 2 and just figure out what's going on in the series. Like, what's actually happening? What is going on? But until then, I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening. Have a nice day, and happy Halloween if you're listening to this on Halloween when this episode comes out. If you're looking for a spookier episode, I definitely just hit the mic. I'm so sorry. If you're looking for a spookier episode, go check out the episode I did with my roommate Jonay on Our Sister the Serial Killer. Thank you so much for listening. Have a very nice day. And I'd like to say this video was recorded on a Bones Day, as you can tell from my exuberance video. This audio was recorded on a Bones Day, as you can tell from my exuberance with talking. Have a nice day. Thank you for joining me. Bye.